2022, and God is making all things new. Hey, this is your Pastor Claudette Anderson Copeland coming to you from the New Creation Christian Fellowship right here in San Antonio, Texas. It's my great pleasure to stir the minds of the sisters, the sisterhood, and the sisters in the hood. Our wonderful new director for the sisterhood ministry is Sister Cora Wilkerson. What a blessing this woman is. She's anointed, she's powerful in God, and she has a deep love for the sisters all in the body of Christ. I want you to welcome Sister Cora Wilkerson tonight as she begins our inaugural presentation with the women of God. Our panel tonight is none other than a group of powerful, young, professional, Holy Ghost-filled young women who are going to talk to you around this theme, don't see it as it is. We're not talking about denial, we're not talking about illusions, but we're talking about the ability to see past what you see and see the hand of God at work in your situation. Don't get stuck on what is. Keep looking at what is possible and what God is crafting in your life. Okay, you stay tuned tonight. It's going to be marvelous. And look at, share with a friend. Touch, tag, share. Let somebody know that the New Creation Sisterhood is on the air with round table talk, with powerful truth and revelation that's going to bless your life. All right, we love you, and we'll see you in just a few more minutes. As a matter of fact, mark your calendar for April because we'll be back with more round table talk. Thank you, Sister Cora Wilkerson and the young women who will lead us forward tonight. Remember, don't see it just as it is. See what God is doing behind what you see.
Hi, my name is Cora Wilkerson, and I am the director of the Sisterhood Ministry, along with our awesome leader, Pastor Claudette Anderson Copeland, Pastor Emerita Claudette Anderson Copeland, and I am honored to be here to have this conversation with these beautiful young ladies. They're just amazing, and they all could be my daughters. I have one that's my daughter, actually, but I claim them all. So we're going to share and talk today about don't see it as it is. And our scripture that we want to go by, we always want to have a scripture, and it's going to come out of Romans 4:17. It says, as it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations before him whom he believed, even God who quickeneth the dead and calleth those things which be not as though they were. And that's what we want to stick with, that latter part of the verse, when we call those things that be not as though they were. And it was many times in my life that I had to call things that be not as though they were. Married at the age of 18, having Sarah overseas in Vicenza, Italy at the age of 20, by myself, no family, my husband, and a couple people that God blessed to be with me and that was in the church. And that was a trying time, but we survived. And here we are today. And I'm just blessed and excited to be here and to be able to do this this talk. So we're going to go forth. The one other thing, the Lord gave me this topic probably about a couple weeks ago. I was actually riding home in my car, and it just came to me so plain that don't see it as it is. And I was like, okay, God. And so that's what I came up with. And so I shared it with these ladies, and they're going to share with us. We're going to talk about some situations that we didn't see it as it is and how we survived. So I'm going to go forth. We're going to start right now with Deetra Cockfield. Well, I said her name, but she's going to introduce herself and share just a little bit, and we'll go from there.
My name is Deetra Cockfield. My family, my parents were founders here at New Creation. I left for college, came back, and have been here as well. I am married to Rob Cockfield III, and we have 2 children, Braden and Brielle. I am an assistant principal at a local charter school district here in the city.
Thank you. Ms. Joe, please.
Hi, I am Joquise Satterwhite, Dr. Joquise Satterwhite. I always forget that. I have been a member of New Creation for 10, 12 years now, I think. It's been since we moved here from California. I'm here with my husband, Quentin Satterwhite, and we have two lovely girls, Mariah Amari Satterwhite and Nevaeh Elise Satterwhite. I am, in my professional life, I am the Senior Director of Global Governance and Programming for Medtronic for our Office of Ethics and Compliance group. So happy to be here with you.
Amen.
All right. Well, my name is Sarah Reed, and I'm married to Jarrell Reed. We have two kids, Mackenzie and Jackson. They are almost 9 and 6, so currently 8 and 5, but the countdown has already begun. And in my professional career, I am a principal at an elementary school here in one of our local districts. And as my mother said, my parents are Tony and Cora Wilkerson. They are deacons here at New Creation. And so we've been members for almost 9, 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
10 years this
10
year.
years. Oh, yeah. 10 years. And that's me.
Yeah, thank you, baby. Stephanie.
All right, my name is Stephanie Jackson. I've been at New Creation since 2012 when I moved to San Antonio. I'm married to Howard Jackson. We have 3 kids. My oldest, Julius, he's 14. We have a 5-year-old, Lamar, and then we have a 2-year-old, Vivian. My profession, I'm a licensed master social worker in the medical field. I work for a managed care insurance, and so that's me.
Hi, I'm Darvell McKinney. I grew up at New Creation as well. My mom was a founding member and was pregnant with me here. Like Deetra, I went away to college, and I think I came back maybe 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, to help move things forward. I am the mom to Israel. He's a 3-year-old, future Superman. And by profession, I am the marketing director here at New Creation, and as well as the founder and lead director and creative for Love Soul Marketing. So we do websites, branding, all that great jazz.
Awesome, awesome. So as you can see, I am here with some amazing professionals, and I am like super, super proud of them. I myself, as I said, I got married young from a little small town in Louisiana to my husband, Tony, and military. I am a military wife, retired. And God has been good to me. I did not get the formal education that they have, but even in that, I'm still blessed, and I'm excited, and like I say, just honored to be here. And we're going to discuss some things about how you didn't see it as it was. So it's just a roundtable discussion. So whoever wants to go first, and we'll just kind of talk about it and share. And I believe that you will be blessed because someone is going through something today and they're figuring out, I can't do it, but you're going to have to dig deep and figure out how you can make it in this situation. And I want to say also, this is New Creation Christian Fellowship Church, and we have awesome pastors, and we have an awesome bishop, David Michael Copeland, and I want to definitely not forget to thank him for allowing us to do this as well. But we have a church here, and we have a family here, and sisterhood is here to help you. So we'll be meeting on a regular basis, and you can message us, or however, you can reach out to us and find out how to get our information so that we can help you. We're here to help anybody that needs help. So just know that we are available. So we're going to go forth, and we're going to talk about what does it mean to you? How did you not? What was my question? How did you not see it as it was, and how did you survive? So whoever wants to go first. Don't everybody hop in at the same time. Come on, Deetra.
All right. So like I had mentioned to you all, that I have promised God that anytime I had the opportunity to share my testimony about my angel babies, that I would. Rob and I was married in 2017. Before we got married, we knew that we were going to start having kids early. So, I did all of the steps with the doctor to make sure everything's okay, to move forward with trying to have a baby. So we got married in July, and I was pregnant, I think the end of August maybe. or September, and unfortunately we had a miscarriage at 8 weeks in October. Of course, it was hard. My doctor told me that, a lot of miscarriages happen in the first 12 weeks. And so although pretty sad, I wasn't defeated, like, okay, we can try this again. I did all my appointments with my doctor to make sure that my HCG levels were back down normal before we started moving forward. And I went for my last appointment in January, and she came back and told me, hey, your numbers are back up. You're pregnant. I was like, oh, okay. With my second pregnancy, Rob and I were very cautious about sharing that we were expecting. We wanted to make sure we got over that hurdle of the first trimester. When we got closer to the end of the first trimester, we took gender reveal pictures, all that good stuff, found out we were having a little girl. We decided on a name, Erilyn Brooke. I had an appointment with my OB. They did that, real quick appointment. You go in, get your blood pressure checked, get all your vitals done. They check your size of your tummy, listen for that heartbeat, and send you on your way. A few days later, I had a medical emergency. I really didn't know I was having a medical emergency. First time. I was 17 weeks. She told me in my appointment that I got over my hump. I'm good to go. I was at work all day. I remember Rob calling to check on me, and I was like, she's not really moving like she normally does. When I got home that evening is when I realized, like, something's not right. I called Rob. He rushed home from work, and we went to the ER. They did a sonogram, and what I know now is that morning my water actually broke at 17 weeks. So, of course, all my fluid around the baby was gone, and she wasn't alive. So they rushed me to labor and delivery. ERs really don't give you specifics. And when we got up there, I'm thinking that I'm going to have another DNC like I did with the first baby. Unfortunately, they told me, no, you're at 17 weeks. You're actually going to deliver her. Oh, wow. So, of course, we were in, like, complete shock. It was the middle of the night, so we were pretty much there by ourselves. And early that next morning was May 3rd. I delivered Erilyn. A few grams she weighed. My biggest regret with Erilyn is that I didn't see her. And I think it's just the overall shock of everything going on and not being able to process just because everything was happening so quickly. Rob did see her. But, yeah, I delivered her at 17 weeks. I went back for follow-ups with my doctor, and I remember sitting there, after you have the baby, they give you the check-off list, the check your mental health and everything. And I remember sitting there and getting so frustrated because I knew that everything I was reading, that was me, but I was like, I'm okay. And so I gave the paper to Rob to fill out, and when we got back in the doctor's office, she was like, I'm really worried about you. A lot's happening. I can already see, like, you checking out, and she's talking to Rob, and I remember, like, it almost was like me turning off a light switch and completely checked out. It was days before Mother's Day. So I remember being home. Rob went to church. One of my good girlfriends came in from Dallas to stay with me. My girlfriends came over that day to just be with me at the house. I remember Robbie having to come home in between services and literally, like, peel me out of bed because I was just distraught. Like, what am I doing or not doing that's not allowing me to carry babies? A lot of depression set in. But as depressed as I was, like, I still knew, like, I could almost process that I'm getting worse. But depression is really real, and, like, even knowing your right mind, like, that depression will take you to left field quickly. But I'm thankful that I still had enough in me to know, like, to share how I was feeling. It really got bad in my depression. I honestly don't know what transpired in my life for those couple of months. Rob and I, best supporter, best husband ever, we started joint counseling that I did not want to do, but, you know, you want to sign us up? Okay, I'll go with you to the counselor. And I remember sitting there and the lady was talking to me like, how do you feel? And I'm looking at him like,
How do you think?
how are you feeling? Like, I'm fine, you know? Yeah. But it really helped me to see that, Deetra, you really do need to talk to somebody and you're going to have to open up. And watching Rob, if you know Rob, he's going to express himself. He's going to show it. And, you know, he showed himself how he felt. And I think that helped me to adjust to say, like, Deetra, you have to share your feelings. Had a great support system with, like, Pastor, Miss Sylvia, Lady Harker, like, really just checking on me, listening, being sensitive to the spirit. Like, when I was at home having rough moments, I would get text messages and calls from them with words of encouragement, prayers through text messages, really just to get me over the hump. I remember a specific Sunday, Rob was being very watchful of me, and he would make me get up and come to church with him, and I would remember sit on the side and be totally just there, but not there. And there was a particular Sunday, Pastor C walked over to pray with me, and she cried. I couldn't cry. Like, that's how hurt I was. But to have her weep for me helped me to at least recognize that people see me and that they know I'm hurting and they are there backing me up, whether they're, you know, physically saying things or they're behind the scenes praying for me. So that was definitely a journey. We found, I called a friend one evening, we were sitting there, and we was like, we should just get out of town. We should go away, have fun, to like just kind of shift us. We called our friends in Florida. They were like, yeah, come on. So we got on the plane and we left, came back, and a few weeks later we found out we were pregnant.
Good
Good trip, right? And of course I was terrified. I'm back at this doctor. I actually had to push her to send me to a specialist. And so we already started having that thought, like, you know what, this might not be where we need to be, because clearly I need special attention, and having those quick appointments is not for me. Yeah. Some women that works, but for me, I need a whole examination every time I walk into the doctor's office. And so my best friend gave me a specialist phone number. I got in contact with them and I saw them. Long story short, through that moment, I had an appointment with my OB. She was like, yep, you're doing great. I went to the specialist and she was like, yeah, you're going on bed rest because you're thinning out. And I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, again.
And I had a cerclagen this time. So, of course, the cerclage is and when they sew your cervix up, basically. You have a procedure, they sew your cervix up so that you do not dilate. For whatever reason, my body thinks it's ready to deliver after 12 or 13 weeks of delivery. So I'm on bed rest. It's actually the week before Valentine's Day, so Braden's birthday is coming up. And I was on bed rest that entire week, still working from home. I'm having my teachers like, hey, pull up the screen, post the computer in the room so I can see what's going on, so I can get feedback. Hey, I need you to go test this kid for me, whatever. Valentine's Day, we have Valentine's. Rob brings dinner. We sit in the bed. He brings up a stool for me. We go to the doctor the next day, and she was like, I'm admitting you because you're 1.5 centimeters dilated, and you're going to be in the hospital until you deliver. I'm like, I'm only 25 weeks. That's a long time to be in the hospital. Mm-hmm. So I go in Friday. Braden makes his appearance that early Monday morning. 26 weeks. He was 1 pound, 14 ounces. He was in NICU for 91 days. Wow. Rob and I went back and forth to the hospital to work, Braden had brain bleeds. Braden had an infection in his blood. They called him Braden because he was always like falling off, and they were like having to like bring Braden back. And I'm like, God, like, what is this? Like, what is this journey that you're taking me on? Braden was discharged May 22nd, healthy baby. The only thing we had to really worry about was his ears. He wasn't hearing. He was failing all his hearing tests.
Well, he's hearing now, though.
Oh, he's hearing very well now. I don't even like, when I see my baby dancing and worshiping, I'm like, it brings tears to my heart every week because I'm like, we thought Brayden couldn't hear, you know? And at first we thought he was ignoring us. I'm like, I don't know. Like they were sending us to the school of the deaf for tests and like, I'm like, yo, like why are we here? Like he can hear. But he's fine, all with his ear tubes and everything. So praise God for Brayden. 6 months later, here comes Brielle during the pandemic. We are on bed rest with her, but I thank God for being able, I know COVID's horrible, but COVID allowed me to stay at home, and I carried Brielle full term, 37 weeks. And so long story short, like I am going to celebrate my kids all the time. I'm going to pick my kids over extras at work. If they want to celebrate, we're going to celebrate. I dress them up for every holiday. They're going to have matching shirts. We're going to go out. We're going to have fun. But I work too hard for my kids not to celebrate them, not to just thank God every time I look at them and they say something like they are the hard work that I put into it. And awesome. I am willing to share with anybody the journey that it took because it's possible to have a baby. You got to make sure you have proper health care. Sometimes you may need a doctor that looks like you to understand like your needs. But I have 2 healthy babies. They love Jesus. They love worshiping. They are loved by many, and I'm so appreciative to them. And I'm just appreciative for the journey. I know it was for me to, in the future, help someone else.
Amen. That is absolutely amazing. And I wrote down so that you had a support system.
I definitely had a support system.
Man, that's what's so important, having a support system. And personally, I'm known as Mama Cora, but I tend to go to Brayden and Brielle, and I said, come on to grandmother. And I was like, because I have 2 grandchildren. So I said, Deidre, if your children start calling me grandmother, it's because I'm saying, come to grandmother.
That's right.
And they're so gracious to share. And I mean, I love, oh my God, I love those babies. And I remember we would come in early on Sunday mornings, the prayer team, and I remember I would walk this floor and I would call out Brayden's name. And so Brayden, he has a place in my heart. He has a place in so many people's heart because he's a miracle. And so to you guys that may not know Brayden, when you see the little boy up here on the platform praising the Lord, that's Brayden. He is a praiser, and I declare and decree he will do more than his dad or his Uncle Paul playing that probably anybody that you've ever seen. He's going to be amazing. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Thank you for sharing your testimony. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. So again, I saw that you had a good support system, and you had a good church. You had good pastors. You had good leaders that cared enough to you. Like you say, Pastor C came and she cried. She cried for you. And that's what you have to have sometimes. You may not have that tear to share, but you can put your head on somebody's shoulder and they can cry for you. And that's what we want you to know, that we're here. I'm here. I will cry for you. I will pray with you. So thank you, Deidre, for sharing your amazing testimony. Does anybody have anything they want to share with that? About that?
Well, so maybe let me go to mine because it's similar, yet different, but at the same time. And so a lot of people think we look alike or we're sisters, like we literally did not know each other 10 years ago. So it's just funny how God works. So I'm going to do my best to make it through.
That's good.
I'm already messing up, so it's going to be all right, though.
It's okay.
So thank you, girl. So me and my husband were married in 2010. We actually are both type 1 diabetic. We met each other at diabetes camp. So we have known each other since I was 12 and he was 15. Wow. So long time. Didn't like him at first, but that's another story for a different time. So after we got married, we knew that we wanted to just chill for a minute. We wanted to enjoy each other. We wanted to live life. And so we did that. And in 2013, we decided we wanted to start our journey to having kids. So, I was raised in the church. I did everything right. So I got married before having sex. I did, all the right, quote unquote stuff. Came to church, participated, all that stuff. So in my mind, this is going to be easy. Everybody else drinking out the water fountain, just getting pregnant. No problems. So for us, it actually was very different. It took us 6 years
to conceive. We went through a very, very challenging journey, actually. So I have very painful fibroids. I have endometriosis. I have gone through, I believe it's 3 surgeries to remove fibroids, to clear my cervix out and all that other stuff. I have gone through 2 IUIs, and I have gone through 3 IVF procedures. So multiple shots. Again, I told you guys I'm diabetic, so shots, not a problem. These shots are a little bit different. The needle is literally this big, not even playing games, every day, twice a day. And so lots of hormone treatments and 6-figure medical bills. Thankfully, we had really good insurance, but we had to pay for our medicine out of pocket, and that was about 20 grand every time we went through an IVF procedure. So, you know, like I said, once we started, we knew it would be difficult, but we didn't really understand what was going to be so hard. We had what's called unexplained infertility. And so, you know, nobody could really tell us what was going on. It's just, it didn't happen. And so, similar to Deetra, right, I would be here Mother's Day. I would see people getting pregnant, and I would literally be standing right over there crying. People thought it was through worship, but I was mourning. I was weeping. I was in a depressive state, and I didn't want to admit it because I was shamed. I was shamed that I couldn't get pregnant. I felt like it was my fault. I felt like it was because I was too busy all the time. I'm a huge career woman. My career is very demanding. And so I threw myself into my career. I traveled all the time. I withdrew. I really did. I withdrew a lot, and it was really hard for me. It is one thing Elder Renitha used to say a lot of times when we were up here ministering, to not bleed on the people. And it was very hard for me to separate the two. And so what began to happen to me was that I would dissociate. So I would put myself in one place, but I would show up here for everybody else because everybody else needed it. Everybody else needed help, but Jaquise would be okay over here. So, you know, we went through everything, and eventually we got pregnant. And, you know, I honestly didn't believe it when it happened. But it happened. But a couple of years before we got pregnant, I was actually sitting in the wing of the sanctuary, and I remember Bishop preaching about Abraham and God telling him to take his son to Mount Moriah to sacrifice him. And he was obedient. And he went there, and he took his son, and he laid him on the altar, and he was ready to sacrifice him. And then God provided a ram in the bush. And in that moment, God told me, your child is coming. Your child will save you. She will be your ram in the bush. And so in that moment, I knew I would name my child Moriah. So it is spelled like the mountain, M-O-R-I-A-H. And again, 2 years before we actually conceived. So when we did conceive, I was happy but scared. The whole time I was happy but scared. We went through, you know, that first trimester, and we got through it, and it was great. And I remember getting a call from my OB. They had done some genetic testing. I was at the hairdresser, y'all, which made it even crazier. I go outside and take the call, and my doctor was like, so we got the results back, and it tested positive for a lot of chromosomal abnormalities. And she was like, but you know what? Don't worry about it, because sometimes these come back with false positives. Now, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, now you done messed up my whole hair appointment. We in here, we talking, we laughing, and now I'm sitting here worried even more about my child. When we go into her, she also sees a bump on the belly in the ultrasound, which looks like a beer belly, if you can imagine that. And she said, you know what? This may be something, but let's just wait it out and see. So a couple weeks later, we go back. We see that has not corrected itself. And what we found out was that my daughter, Mariah, has a rare birth defect called an omphalocele. And what that means is that her organs, her abdominal wall did not close during the first trimester. So her organs
were developing outside of her abdomen. So normally with this, because it's so rare, most physicians tell you to terminate the pregnancy. And so I'm sitting here like, nah, God, I know. Now I probably said some other words, but I know. I didn't just go through all of this to come to this place to have to terminate my pregnancy. And so what I did, what I do best, I dissociated from it. I avoided it. And my husband, he dug in, he found out what it was, he, found support groups, and he handled all of that. And I got to just be pregnant.
Wow, that's
and just got to enjoy that. I had, like Deetra, tons of appointments. So many appointments, I was getting annoyed. Ironically, we actually both saw the same doctor, who was amazing. She was very caring, very thoughtful, walked us through the process, and made everything very easy. And so, we're getting closer and closer to having Mariah, and we come in, I get to another doctor, because in this practice, they alternate doctors. And the doctor comes in and says, well, your baby's only going to be 4 pounds when she gets delivered. She's going to have heart issues because I see something wrong with her heart, and then she's going to have all this other stuff. And Stephanie, I was looking just like that. Like, legitimately, I was like, who are you talking to? And in that moment, I told her to get out.
Oh, that's good.
Because what I saw, one, I was getting upset. But two, I refused to allow anyone else to speak negative over my child. And so, I did not go back to the doctor after that. Ironically, I went to see my OB, and my blood pressure was through the roof. Next thing I knew, I had preeclampsia. So I had Mariah at 36 and a half weeks. And we had a C-section. We went in, we had her, and I was able to see her face for 2 seconds, and they rushed her back to the NICU. Quentin went with her, took care of her while I was out of it because they had to put me on magnesium so I didn't seize during, kind of dealing with my blood pressure and everything. And so, long story short, they told us that she would be in NICU 6 months. We actually had met a family there that was dealing with the same thing. Their baby had a G-tube. Their baby was having heart issues, was having, you name it, that baby was having those problems. My baby girl was just chilling. She literally had no issues besides the fact that her abdominal wall has to be corrected. So she'll have to have surgery when she gets older, but when you see her running around, there's nothing wrong with her.
That's God.
It's literally God telling me that my promises are true. And so, we decided during all the COVID, we want to have one more.
That's good.
So we had to go through IVF again. And we got pregnant, first time. It was so simple. It was so easy. And I was like, what's happening right now? Like, I'm confused. I don't understand this. Like, I'm like, is this a joke, right? So everything was going normal, going great. Pregnancy going wonderfully. Went to my high-risk doctor. My blood pressure went through the roof again. 31 and a half weeks, I got admitted to the hospital. Ironically enough, it was the week that my husband turned 40. My baby girl was turning 2 because their birthdays are right next to each other. So my husband's 11/18, Mariah's 11/19. Nevaeh decided she wanted to enter the world on 11/17.
Wow.
So their birthdays are literally in a row. But I remember laying in the bed, I was upset because I couldn't get everything together. My girlfriends were like, don't worry about it. It's a party. We got it. It's fine. And I'm like, no, I have to do this, I have to do that. And they're like, just chill out. But I was laying in the bed and I started to see spots. My liver was starting to shut down. I was having preeclampsia. Can have some serious ramifications that I didn't know about. And when I told my doctor that I was seeing spots, even though she didn't look like me, she knew me and she listened and she said, no, we're having the baby today. And so we did it. She's healthy. Her name is Nevaeh, heaven spelled backwards.
Oh, man.
And so that's our story. It's been rough, but God.
But God.
And that's all I can say.
That is just absolutely amazing. I was just trying to write down some things. The devil tried to put depression on both of you guys. And look at you now. You both had a good support system. You talked about how when you had to go to the hospital, you're like, oh my God, I got to do this. They said, we got you. And so you got to have a good support system. And once again, no glory to myself, but I remember praying. We prayed. We prayed for you. We prayed for your baby. And look at God. We get to meet her. She's here today. And that's a miracle. And I'm just, oh my God, I'm so excited, because what the devil meant for evil, God turned it to good. He turned to good. And you both have two beautiful babies, and I'm just excited. So does anybody have anything they want to share?
I did want to just say, to kind of piggyback off, like, the need for advocating for our health as Black women is just absolutely essential. You have to know your body, you have to know your family history if you can know it, and advocating, because similarly, I did not have pre-eclampsia, but I had postpartum eclampsia, magnesium, like coming through the fog, like, what is this? Jack was back at home with them. I went back to the hospital. Yeah. But again, it's recognizing those signs, having that support is so essential, because if you don't know what's going on with your body, you could potentially die. You could die. You could legit die. And, just think about our family. My grandmother, her sister passed away postpartum after having had her son. And my grandmother was not a woman of a lot of words. She wouldn't, she just very kind of low key. And she called me and she was like, "Are you done?" And I was like, "Well, I think we are." She's like, I think we're done. And I was like, okay, I am done. Because now knowing, her backstory of having experienced the loss of a sister, she didn't tell me up front, and I'm glad she didn't, because she probably didn't want to scare me. But knowing now that information, it's something that I don't think we talk about enough in our community to even say, like, this is what you need to, be on the lookout for. And if you feel this way, you need to share with somebody. And it's not just you kind of being another pregnant hypochondriac, because I did feel like, let me get on Google and see, like, it's me again. Yeah. But it's okay to ask those things and to advocate for what your needs are.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing is that, so they look at Black women as being so strong. And we have this, we are strong, let me say that, right? Yeah. But we have to show up strong in places where we shouldn't have to. And so they look at us and say, "Oh yeah, you may be in pain, but you'll be all right." Right? And so if you don't know your body, if you're not willing to say, "No, this is what I need, this is what I want," you can find yourself in a difficult situation. And like I say, I was very naive. I literally thought people just, I'm pregnant, boom, let's pregnant, have some baby showers, let's, enjoy this time. I didn't realize how difficult emotionally, mentally it could be. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing that.
I was going to just say, also just being led by the Spirit. So I, too, had, similar struggles with pregnancy, and everyone's pretty familiar with my story. However, and then also just being aware of, like y'all say, your physician. Because my physician was an older Hispanic man. And because I have heard this things that go on, I really struggled with going with him, right? However, spiritually, I was comforted with him, even though I was like, because, we want to be relevant. We want to be like, well, maybe I should go find a sister, or, somebody so that they'll know me. But however, I like this man. He gets me. You know what I mean? So even like with Vivian or whatever, like when I got ready to have her umbilical cord was wrapped around her throat. He tested me for diabetes at the end of my pregnancy, which even when I went to the specialist, she was like, "Why he test you for so late?" You know what I mean? Because, literally, I was about to have Vivian in 3 weeks, And so just being led by the Spirit of not going with society or not going with, what the trending or what you're seeing on social media, but going through what God has put in you to lead whatever it is, your pregnancy or whatever journey God's putting you through,
Yeah. So you heard the voice of God. You prayed. So that's important too. And I know all of you girls are saved, and y'all pray. And that's very, very important as well, is to be able to pray and to hear God for yourself and get directions. Because I can say, Deidre do this, Joquise do this, Sarah do this, but you got to hear God for yourself. Yeah. And so that's a good thing, is hearing the voice of God. So I wrote that down. What do you have to say, my sweetie?
Even sitting here, I struggle because I feel like my situation, it's been so many different, it's so colorful. When Deidre was pregnant, we were pregnant at the same time, a week apart. Mm-hmm. I took her maternity pictures. And so for me, going into what I'm about to talk about, I've watched the seasons. Like, I remember not really being close to Joquise, but I could feel that she wanted a baby. You could feel it. You could feel the desperation of, you know, and on paper, you know, all of us were educated and thinking, you know, you think it's right. Like, you think, like, I mean, all I've got to do is ask and receive. You know, we grew up in the church, and it's just going to come. So for me, when I moved back to San Antonio, I moved because my mom was sick. And so uprooting my whole life in Houston and moving into a town, I used to tell Deidre that it was really hard for me to mesh with the girls because I didn't have adult girlfriends here. My adult girlfriends were in Houston, so it was very difficult for me to just organically, I'm very good with socializing, but I'm talking about actually, let me tell you what, girl. And so, you know, when I came here, that was pretty much my mindset here. And then I got married a month after Deidre. So we were in the same situations, but my life behind closed doors was totally different. I felt like, and even now, like God was moving me forward career-wise and spiritually, but I was in a very abusive marriage. Very abusive. And not being able to share that, you know, because my husband worked here at the time and our livelihood is tied up in it. And just not having a place where you could, you know, at the level that as public as I was, being able to say, like, no, this is crazy. Like, I mean, holes in the, I mean, it was just bad. It was really bad. And I remember Pastor C started the Wellness Center. And the Lord told me that I was going to be the one to help with this. And I remember my husband saying after one of his things, like, that I was the poster child for it. Mm. And he was right. But he, like, you are the poster child for this work. And still not having the courage to say, you know, what is going on. And still asking God for things, you know what I mean? But then feeling guilty because maybe it's not that bad because I didn't lose my baby. You know what I mean? Like, really comparing my wounds. And that was part of the reason why I didn't say anything, because Deidre was one of the ones that lost a baby, but I had 7 girlfriends that were pregnant, and every single one of them lost their baby except for me.
Wow.
2 of them were family members who were younger than me. Their babies were a month apart. So really feeling guilty. And then even with my mom being sick, just being grateful that at the time she was still here, so not wanting to feel, you know, ungrateful, like, you know, it could be worse. But God, the crazy thing was that my career was moving forward, but that's never what I wanted. And it's so crazy, like, people are always like, oh my God, you know, if I could tell you, if there was a list of things on what I wanted, like, a career was not it. Like, I wanted, because it was so toxic at home, I was just praying to God, like, that my baby was happy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want, like, if you can just shield him, you won't hear from me. And that was my only prayer, was that, you know, that Israel did not, that it didn't come off. You know what I mean? And so I just remember, like, covering my womb at night because it was demonic. Like, it really, like, and no, you know, this is probably, like, the most public thing I've said, but it was bad, you know? And having the courage at 7 months to leave. Mm. But nobody knew, you know, you say that, but, you know, we still came to church and we still, but it just got bad, you know. But knowing that if I didn't leave, that I didn't know if my son or I would make it. Like, realistically making a decision to say, like, it's literally life or death. But still trying to hold this unit together. And that went on. I had Israel in 2018. It was all 2019. So it felt so much, it burdened me spiritually, because this is the place where you're supposed to come and lay it out. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't. Yeah. To who? To what? You know, and not saying that it wasn't available, but I'm just saying that that's just what it was. Wanting to protect you just don't know. You know, I don't even have an answer, but just not having, you know, when you look at all of everybody else, you know, sorry, I got a bad one. You know, like, what are you supposed to say? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, then wondering, like, you know, do you go through these pains and then it gets better? Like, what is too much? Yeah. Strength of a black woman, like, you know, okay, well, but then it just got bad. Fast forward to 2020, my mom passes. And that was another thing that helped me maneuver was that, my mom was my rock, I got diabetes and it never went away, so it was a whole nother just shift for me. But then she passes unexpectedly. And then 2020 was like, ooh. It was like now sitting here realizing like I was depressed. Like I really realized that like because I'm a performer, so I'm going to, anytime that something hits off, my natural response is I'm going to go into turbo mode. And so on paper, again, professionally, things are getting knocked out the park. My business was featured in a newspaper. It was so crazy. Like I would tell God, like, why is this going up and this is going down? My son wasn't speaking. We were doing therapy 3 times a week, to where, he wasn't meeting milestones. And once again, the one thing that I asked for, which is a healthy home life, is non-existent. Nobody would have ever known, the things that we went through privately, but then saying, I've got to carry this torch as a single mom, because then it got to a point to where if I didn't want to be married, he wasn't going to be a father. That was a whole nother curveball. I never expected to be a single mom. Not when the marriage comes before the baby, not that. Like,
you all did it right.
Yeah, like, so for me, it's like, it was a real battle with God, because it was like, I have served you.
Yeah.
I am watching you use me to move ministries forward. And I got one request, and you can't. But then still being able to, so the hurtful thing is still being able to celebrate other people. Being able to celebrate her on her anniversary, being able to celebrate a family unit, which is all that's around you at church. Even here kind of struggling, like the wife of, and I'm like, oh man, because it's just the wounds that you're like, and then I'm making the decision to say, okay, and again, I didn't realize how depressed I was, but listening to y'all, I was thinking about a time where in the pandemic, I packed my baby up and we drove to Houston. And that's what I did. Like, people didn't know, but we were traveling to different cities because my mind was like, I needed to move. And I remember sitting at a parking lot, and an officer knocked on my window. And I never remembered this until I was cleaning out Israel's toys, and I saw the doll. And I was the one that said I wasn't going to cry, right?
Okay.
But
it really is.
He knocks on my window, and he hands me a green stuffed animal for Israel. Like, I was literally having a nervous breakdown, and here comes this officer out the blue, and we were in Houston. And I don't even remember, that's how you think, like, depression. Like, I don't even know where we were. How we got there.
My.
Like, I couldn't tell you where we were coming from. I couldn't tell you any of that. And even then, just to, like, block it out, and I found the doll, and I was like, oh, my God. Like, how the Lord will cover you when you're, like, out of it. But if you would have checked my professional resume, I'd have turned my stuff in. They didn't even know I wasn't even in the state. You know what I mean? In the city, like, I was gone. But to really realize, like, how on the edge that you are, and then making the decision and struggling, like, Lord, how are you going to use me, knowing that the structure of the church is built in family, and, so I'm going to go up without a husband? Like what? That's just not how the hierarchy of the church works, and that's the business that I cater to. And so, feeling like there's no way, like there's just, and now I'm a single mom, and now I'm a single mom with a child who's not performing like I think he should, and then you're going to keep elevating me. So you want to take more out of me that I don't even have.
Woo, that's good.
And then, still not being able to articulate it. And then finally saying, and now I'm going to get divorced. Because it's one thing to go through it, it's another thing to articulate it. By the time I articulated it, I remember somebody was like, I'm so sorry. And me had been to the point like, oh, no. Because I had already dealt with it so long privately. So by the time that it came out publicly, not really having anything to say about it. But I say that to say that everybody's struggle is different. You know what I mean? Like I said, whereas at the root of us, we're crying for a family. You know what I mean? Like, you can't explain I can't explain the small things. Like, I take Israel. I had to be in the barbershop with men. That when he potty trained that, like, he sat down. And I'm not saying it like boys don't, but I'm saying that the internal failure that I would feel, that I cannot make him into a man. Like, and feeling like, amongst other things, and here comes another letter of, we're highlighting Love Soul, and I'm like, it made me sick. It made me sick because the things that I wanted from God were not tangible. And then you start doing math. I was like, I'm 35. If I meet a man again, I'm dating for 2 years, what am I going to be, 41? You start calculating those things. And so for me, like I said, that's what this was about for me, which was, when you're actually knee-bent in serving in the church. And I'll say one more thing. Where I really got the courage to say something was Pastor C said, I was helping with the Wellness Center. By this time, it's the 3rd year. And her theme was wounded in the house of a friend.
Come on.
And so I'm a worker. I'm behind the scenes. And she had made us all, if we were working, you're going to do the work. And so the picture that she has was, she said, I want you to draw the house that you were wounded in.
Wow. Come on.
And that's when I had to be on. The house that I was wounded in was my house, not my childhood house. Wow. I'm talking about the house. If you pull the pictures down, the walls and the holes in the wall are huge. And being able to say that, this is the house that you're wounded in, and then still saying, but now what? So long story short, 2020, I lost my marriage and my mom. And that was hard. It was the hardest thing that I've ever dealt with. And I'm still dealing with. Like, I'm not, I don't think you ever get over nothing like that. But the main thing that I will say today is that sitting here has me realizing, like, how much God is truly a keeper. Yeah. Because, like I said, like, I would have never called it depression. But when you're listening, I sat blank-faced it many times. Many times. Blank-faced it many times where you could, my mind is here, or my body is here, but my mind is a million light years away. And so when you hear about the suicide rates and you hear about, like, people flipping over, it's real. It is so real, because you don't know. You don't know what people are struggling with at home. You don't know, like, and I had to get to the point to where, and I'll be done, I had to say, my step for healing was to not analyze the truth, but to say the truth. So I had to say the truth. The truth was, my husband was abusive. Because I would analyze the why.
That's the truth. That's
how
the truth.
How did I get
That's
this?
good.
And so when I stopped, when I just put a period on it, the truth is I am a single mother, period. The truth is his dad may never come around, period. But there are also truths. We have a great community.
That's it.
Period.
Right. We have a strong church.
We have a strong church, period. And I'll tell you that. And that's how I had to, God was putting so many angels around me and that boy that it was unheard. He went to the top school. We never missed a beat. One income, I made more than I had with my husband. And I'm not saying it, I'm just saying that he was providing. He was overly compensating for things that Mary couldn't. I remember one time, and I say this no shade, I'm just saying it like how God works, because you got to be honest. Me and my husband had a goal of $12,000 that we wanted to save. It was a very passive amount to save $12,000 in 1 year. We could have very passively did that. My husband had a habit that didn't allow that to happen. Alone, I superseded that saving. Alone, to where I was able to buy a company. And people see things now and they think like it's no bragging. I'll tell you that, because God, it's not what I asked for. It's not even what I asked for. But I will always give credit of how I got it, which is that it fell in my lap. And yes, I paid my and I paid my tithes. But we there were so many nights where I couldn't even hear him.
Yeah.
Like, where, if you don't know what that feeling feels like, to where you know you're supposed to pray, but you don't even know if somebody's there because you cannot hear. I could not hear his voice. I couldn't hear him. And the pain is too strong, because you ask yourself, Lord, like, I watched, no disrespect, but the most traumatic people have successful marriages. Toxic people make it 25 years. I'm talking about when you look at their, and I'm like, come on, God, we serve you.
Yeah.
We serve you every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Yeah. I got the video.
Right.
And we're here,
video.
which was the worst part. You know how hard it was for women to get their spouses in the door? We was all here.
Yeah.
We was all here.
Yeah.
So the formula was supposed to be 2 + 2 is 4, and baby, and being able to still having to be called to his kingdom. I'm still called to perform at this level. I'm still called to push these ministries forward. And I'll say one thing, you know, when they talk about that thorn, I felt like, you know, there was a thorn that was stuck in my side. And me and my prayer partner would say, my grace is sufficient. And not really knowing what that meant, but really now knowing that absolutely his grace was sufficient.
That is amazing. I knew that you did not want to come.
No, I did not.
She did. No. And I was like, no, I want you. She said, I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. What we talk about, Sister Boy?
That, what you just shared.
That right there. Because you are strong, you're resilient, you are amazing. Just a short time I've been working with her, she is amazing. And you're only going up. And God put something in you, or your dear mother put something in you, oh man, that has keeping you today. And I mean, I am so proud of you. So proud of you. And just I'm honored to be able to be in your corner. Come on. So
I do not glamorize this.
Amen.
I tell people, I don't bless you if you choose this path.
That's awesome.
I do not glamorize it, but it's been God.
Yeah. Praise God. That's good. I'm so glad we're doing this. I want to hear from Sarah real quick, and then I want to hear a little bit more from you. Our time is winding up, but look, if we go over, they can do whatever y'all say they can do.
Yes, they'll make it work.
Yeah.
So much as I'm sitting here and listening, just kind of like synthesizing the whole conversation, like two things. Well, there's like four things, but I'm gonna share the first two. Throwing out the playbook, like it's not going to be. I picture us, you know, we play with dolls, and you're the dad, and you're the mom, and we're gonna get married, we're gonna have kids, and everything's perfect. Like, ooh, you know, just. You know, easy bake oven, and it's done. And that is not the path. That's not the reality. That's not the lives that people are living. I see, you know, I have something prepared to share, but I'm going to deviate a little bit, because in full transparency, I think that part of the work that I need to help move forward is transparency about how hard marriage really is. You know, Jarrell and I don't think he will mind me sharing. Like, I'll ask him when we get home before we air it. I'll let you know. We got married March 21st, 2009. We had dated very briefly. I always said that I was going to, like, date somebody a very long time. I had a timeline. If you know me, I know what I'm doing next month, next year. Like, I'm a planner. And here's this dude comes in from South Carolina sitting on the pew. And I, you know, at the church that we were going at the time, they'd say, like, turn and talk to your partner or greet somebody. I was like, I'm gonna greet this person over here. I'm gonna come sit back down, and then here he is again, and he's there again. And so we get married. You know, like, okay, yeah, you know, we're about to get married. It's gonna be great. Like, do all the things that married people do. So, no, that was not our story. It's like, no, like the intimacy was like, big old goose egg. And I was like, we did it right. Like, now we're supposed to be like, we're not married, you know, we don't have kids. This should be happening all the time. And so you have people, you know, they see you like, oh, y'all look so cute together, and oh, y'all have this, and that has just, it is until probably like 3 years ago, become less of a struggle. It's still something we have to be intentional, and I say for me, work on. And that's not something that we spend a lot of time talking about, because like you said, people see you walk in, you sitting together, he's got his towel, and then we sit like right over here and not talking to each other, like, period. Like, don't put this camera on us. Did you talk to, is Jarrell coming? I'm like, I don't know, because I haven't spoken to him. And I'm going to get back in this car, and I'm going to go home, and then you go and you walk through the halls of the hallway, and, you know, on Facebook and social media, things will look great. Y'all have 2 beautiful kids. Everything's lovely. But what they don't know is that my younger sister and my mother helped me pack up a bag one day because I was like, I'm pretty sure if I stay here, I'm not going to be free tomorrow. I need to go. And Mom was like, you need to go? I need to go. I need to go. I did come back, but the transparency is that it's not always going to be the way we thought it was going to be. And being okay with that and sharing that and having good girlfriends that will literally, my best friend has made a calendar, not recently, but she will check in like, girl, you handling your business? I'm like, I'm handling my business. Like, yes. Like, we gotta go. It's been bad. But, you know, it just having that honesty. But if you suffer in silence, if you keep those things in isolation and you wonder, like, everything looked great, like, why are they married no more? Well, what you don't know is not the story that you would think. Or, I mean, God forbid if Jarrell was to, you know, have stepped outside of the marriage. He's a great husband, and to my knowledge, has not. You know, nobody would have, in the world, would have really blamed him because it just, you know, they do have needs. And people wouldn't have even understood that the backstory of that. And like I said, you think, you know, when you get married and you make these vows and these grand, you know, declarations that, all right, everything's about to be lovely. Like, we serve you, we come to church, we like, everything should be great. But not seeing it, back to the theme, as what it is that ability to have the sisterhood, to have the accountability, to really be honest, and really be upfront with what affection looks like in a marriage. Even, I mean, Mackenzie's 8, but I'm like, eventually you're gonna like somebody, and you're gonna wanna show affection, and this is what it looks like. Because it's not this like, oh, I'm not a very affectionate person. Well, your marriage is going to require some affection.
Oh, that's good.
And so let me step outside of where I currently default to and model for you. So last night we watched a movie. I'm like, I'm right up under Jarrell. And he's like, okay. I was like, you like that? Like physical touch, you know? And we might make light of it, but it's very intentional. Because, and I've asked God, I'm like, okay, I know I love my husband. I'm like, let me foster that so that I can reciprocate what he's given to me and vice versa. But again, sisterhood is having those girlfriends, having the conversation to be able to really be open and honest about what you're struggling with, because if you keep it just held to yourself, you will lose it. Yeah. Like it, yeah. And when Darvell was sharing, I was like, about yes, those highs and those lows. It's like, what is wrong with me? Like, come on, people out here like just all over the place. Like, come on, like I done it right. Like, you should just be like, come on, let's get it. No, and so that emotional roller coaster that you can be on, especially when the perception is that, you know, y'all got it together. Like, look at y'all so, oh, we're so proud of. I'm like, you don't even know. Like, we're just like, will we even be together on our anniversary? Or like, nah, like, is this the year? Yeah. Because I just don't know. Like, and I don't want you just being here because, you know, we got this much time. And it's so you have and then you feel that emotion of like, well, maybe, you know, I don't want to let these people down because of the perception. But if we're really being honest and open and just sharing, like, this is how I feel, you will realize that there's other people that are walking the same path. I hope that our marriage can be a testimony to the people coming, the singles, to the current married folks that's like, no, like, the struggle is real sometimes. And whatever your thorn is, it might look different from relationship to relationship, but just know you're probably going to face something. And that's okay. And that's okay. And you'll get through it, and you'll get through it with the support that you have with getting to know God for yourself, because there's some things that not even your mom can pray for you about, you know, that's going to pray you through. You're going to have to, you know, get along with God on your own and really seek God and ask him to help you, and he will. And you know, like I said, March 21st, we'll have celebrated 13 years. And I'm like, oh my Lord, like, for real? Like, I was like, look, like, we're really doing it. It's happening. But y'all, it has not been without struggle. So when we walk through those doors, know that that's a very imperfect marriage, family, and we are just striving every day to continue to love each other and stay committed to those 2 kids that we have. But it is work. It is definitely work. was not what I was going to share, but I
that's
think
okay,
yeah.
and that's what we're spirit led, and and like I said, here I am, 38 years in, married at 18, had you at 20, Sierra at 29. Oh Lord, don't wait that long apart. Take you out. But I'm grateful. But I'm telling you what, 2020 for me was a year of pure, oh my gosh. And like I said, 38 years in, I can say that year 37 and 38 probably has been some of the best months.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, you think, oh, like Sarah said, you walk through the door, everything's perfect. Oh, that's Deaconess Cora. That's Brother Tony. She sings on Judah. He's a deacon. He's this, she's that, she's that. Oh, they have 2 beautiful daughters. But you don't know what people go through. And sometimes it's a struggle and it's a choice. I'm glad that you didn't stay in the situation. You got out. I'm glad. I'm proud of you. Hats off to you. Sometimes we stay in things that we should have gotten out, but for the grace of God, he keeps us. So I'm grateful today. I love my husband. I love you, Tony. But we both know the struggle has been real. But we just keep pushing.
Yeah.
We're going to keep pushing, and we'll trust in God. All will be well. I want to hear a little more from you, sweetheart. I know our time is up. But, oh, man, this has been amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I think we are helping people. Yeah, we may have to do a part 2. But anyway, share with us.
Most definitely. But no, I'm not going to share long, but just similar to what Sarah was saying, like, marriage and things are intentional. I think everything that everyone has shared today has been intentional. It had a plan, which is what thus says the Lord. You make a plan, you make it clear. You know what I mean? Just a little bit what I was going to share was with, I'm working. I have my master's. My husband was working. And then he decides to up and stop his career and go into being self-employed. So I'm like, bruh. The agenda. That's not the plan. Yeah. That's the plan we had. Yeah. And the funny part is he told everybody around me before I knew. I found out from somebody else.
Oh, Lord.
And I was like, bruh, what is this? This ain't gonna work, right? So like literally you got married at 14, and he quit his job in that summertime. So we're finna go into, and then this is the time we're adopting Julius. So, things gotta be tight. CPS coming in and checking us and making sure everything is legit. So I'm like, no, bro, we can't have this like this. We gotta get this together. So, literally we struggle financially, struggle. And I was sharing with them before this, we struggled so bad was that we actually donated plasma to buy groceries every week. We would pay our bills and then we would go sit in the plasma place up here by Nacogdoches, the one on Nacogdoches, and sit there and he would text me and say, oh, they don't have a long line today. Come on, babe. Wow. Oh, great. And then I'd get up there and then I would get the gift cards they would give us and then I would go buy groceries at HEB, right? Wow. So I always have an aha moment like that. I'm like, this is not my life. This is not how God said it's supposed to happen. Like you say, I've done everything right. Why am I having to donate plasma to buy groceries? And I'm paying my tithes, I'm getting first fruit, I'm doing offering, I'm doing sacrifice. Nah, bro, this ain't work like this. It ain't work like this. So once again, I get to the drawing board. I'm like, babe, something got to give. I was like, we just got married, but we may be divorcing because I'm not about to live my life like this. Right. So we had to really look at some things, cut back on the expenses. I was like, if you want to be self-employed, bet, but we got to do this the right way. We need to advertise, we need to do different things, you got to have a plan or whatever. So being intentional is what I was trying to do. We had to be intentional to come up out of that situation. You know what I mean? Now, fast forward, God is great. When you say God blesses you, God has blessed us. We were able to purchase property now. We are able, there's he's supposed to be a little older gentleman, that's my mom's best friend, and he pretty much was he owns plenty of land, and he was like, I have no kids, and I just need you to oversee everything, and when I pass away, I'll give everything to you. Wow. You know what I mean? And so, and being a steward, being a good steward of what God has already blessed you with. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Knowing oh, I really want to order that from Amazon. However, that's not being wise with my money. That's not being a good steward of what God has given me. Actually, that needs to go into the investment account for Lamar's, Julia's college. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Being intentional about, oh, I really want to go out to eat and in order that. But honestly, that could go to here. So just trying to be a good steward of what God has already given me so that he can bless me with more. You know what I mean? And things like that. So just trying to, just to wrap it up, I guess, being intentional and recognizing things and sacrificing and dying to the flesh of the things that I desire. You know what I mean? So that my children, my legacy can live beyond me, you know? So anyway.
That is so good. Guys, that was, that was fun. Has this been great? Yeah, and then I'm going to close for real. We got to go. I sit in the church, sit in my home, and I picture different ones. I was like, oh, yeah, I could just see where you're at. And so I believe God intentionally gave me your names to come and to share our very first sisterhood with me. And I'm excited, and I know God is going to bless. We're going to meet again prayerfully in April, and we will see where we go from there. But I want to thank you all so very much for coming in and sharing your truth. I know for a fact, unequivocally, that this will be a blessing to somebody. Amen. So I love you all so much, and I'm thankful, and that's it.